Evening, everyone. This is Justin.
I'm Wyatt.
Desert Smoke Reviews. Today we're coming at you with the Pinar Del Rio Exclusivo Reserva Limitada. This is, I believe it's a 54 or 52 by 6-inch stick, coming in with a dark, I believe it's a Habano Escudo wrapper.
Yeah, it's got kind of a milk chocolate sort of look to it. Not dark chocolate, not really dark, but almost sort of a milky type of chocolate. It's a little spongy towards the foot of the cigar, but around the cap there's a real firm pack. Lots of stems. There's a little bit of a seam up there at the cap, but that should be cut off with the cut. So other than that, it's a pretty band. It looks like it's going to be a good smoke.
Coming off, I get again for me a heavy, like a barnyard earth.
Yeah.
With a slight hint of like sweet. It's like a sweet aroma.
I think it's hay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of barnyard hay.
I could say hay, like a cured hay.
Yeah.
A little bit of sweetness coming off of it. But let's get it cut up, lit up, and see how it goes.
This is a surprisingly heavy cigar, just off the first draw. There's a lot of,
For me, yeah, it's definitely medium to full in body for me. I mean, it's pumping out the smoke too.
yeah,
Just you can kind of see it just pumping the smoke out. Very thick, chewy smoke for me. Flavor-wise, it's probably just from the light. It's kind of harsh, like a harsh grass right now. Nothing really developed, but it might be. It took me a little bit of time to light it. I might have charred the tobacco a little bit, so that might be where that that kind of harsh, grassy flavors coming out. But
on the finish, I get sort of an almost raisin sort of taste, and maybe that's what Justin was saying about charring the tobacco. It's very pleasant. It starts off harsh, but it mellows out into sort of that raisin sort of aftertaste, but it's very good. I like it off the first couple of draws. We'll see how it develops.
Welcome back. Just about 10 minutes in, a little over an inch down. Actually medium to full in body, and medium in strength for me. Draw has been excellent. We were discussing flavors, and that raisin Wyatt mentioned at the initial light is really what I'm picking up. It's a sweetness, but it's not your typical sweetness, and I think a raisin is the best description for it. And yeah, you know, that hits me on my front of my palate, and then I'm starting to get a spice in the lingering finish, and that finish is extra long. And I'm still tasting that spice into my next draw, and you know, that's about what I'm getting right now. So far, it's relatively enjoyable.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of that raisin. It's almost sort of like a wine, really. It's got that kind of damp grape raisin type of flavor to it, and most of the, like Justin was saying, that flavor just lasts forever. It's very good so far. It kind of coats your tongue with this raisin, and especially at the back of your tongue, you get a lot of spice and something else. I guess I'll have to figure out what that is. Justin says spice. It's a little bit of a spice, a little bit of pepper, but there's also something else to it. It's a very complex cigar. Construction-wise, it's constructed pretty well. It's for the most part, the ash is hanging on and everything. A little bit of a wonky burn, but I think it's going to figure itself out before we get to the band. So far, very good cigar. I enjoy it. We'll see how the flavors develop.
We'll be back when we get into the second third.
All right, well, I'm about halfway through. Justin's getting to halfway through this Pinar Del Rio Exclusivo. So far, a lot of the same flavors, a lot of that kind of chewy raisin sort of flavor. The burn is a little wonky. It was almost sort of tunneling earlier, and I can see on the wrapper some of it's kind of coming, or the wrapper is cracking a little bit. Other than that, it's a great tasting cigar. I really enjoy it. It has 2 bands on it, and I took off the other band just as the burn was getting closer. But yeah, so far it's been a pretty reliable smoke. We were talking about earlier. I suggested wine as a taste to it. If you were going to have something like this, I would probably pair it with something a little thicker, a thick wine. I just have some water here, but that would probably be the closest thing that I could equate this to.
I would agree. I'm not a wine drinker, but when Wyatt mentioned wine, I just can't think of anything better for this cigar. It's just that thick smoke I do like. It really pumps the smoke out. It's thick, it's chewy, it adds a texture to the cigar that I enjoy. That raisin flavor, sweetness, it's all I'm really getting. The spice for me has died off. So I'm really just getting that raisin sweetness, and I actually really enjoy that. It's very one-dimensional for me, but I like it. It's good flavors. Also, medium in body, medium in strength. I've had some issues with the burn as well. The other thing, it was a little lumpy in places on this cigar, and I didn't really think much of it. But now, as the burn gets close to those, I'm seeing those are cracking right at those little lumps. So construction isn't the greatest on this cigar, but I do believe these are only around $2 to $3 a stick online. So that's not to say they're bad. I don't maybe not have the quality control some of the other cigars have, because I'm seeing it everywhere. There's a little lump. I'm having a crack in the wrapper. But other than that, it's going well. I'm not quite as far along as Wyatt, but I'm getting there, and so far so good.
So far so good. We'll update you as we get further along.
Welcome back. We're about an hour and 15 into it. Flavors have changed a little bit. The flavors themselves haven't changed, but the dimension of those flavors have changed for me. That raisin flavor has kind of not gone flat, but it's changed a little bit. It's still the same raisin that Wyatt mentioned, grape, and that's probably a better description. More of a grape sweetness for me. Then it finishes into, for me, I'm getting a bit of an earth and a raw tobacco. On the finish, it's that grape kind of washes out for me, and I just get the raw tobacco. Still, this thing pumps the smoke out. A really rich, thick, chewy smoke that helps add to that flavor and kind of gives a texture to it that I truly enjoy. I really like it. Burr sucks, and I hate to say that. It's just wonky. I've had to do a lot of touch-ups. At one point, half the wrapper quit burning. I thought it was going to tunnel. I had to correct it. Just not a good burn. And I mentioned those lumps where they cracked. It would crack and start to unravel. I've burned past that, and that's kind of no longer an issue for me. But the construction kind of was so-so for this cigar. I mean, that's what led to a lot of the burn problems. Still, medium in strength, medium in body. I was hoping for it to be a little more full, like a medium to a full. That's what I initially got, but just, it stayed the course, and still an enjoyable cigar. You can probably get another 30 to 45 minutes out of it, and we probably will smoke it down. It's a good cigar, but for me, that's kind of what I get.
Yeah, that raisin that I brought up earlier, I think it's kind of transformed into a grape. It's definitely the best part of the cigar. Once you get past the first initial draws, is that area from about here to there. It's more complex. It's got more of that kind of sit on the tongue type of texture and flavor to it. I really enjoyed that part. As I get further along and I get closer to the end, it's tunneling a little bit more. Like Justin was saying, the construction isn't great. It tunnels a bit, and the wrapper itself, even right here, it's cracking. Something that I've noticed is you'll kind of get a runner in one area, and then as you keep smoking, you're thinking, well, it's just going to figure itself out, it's going to fix itself, but it really doesn't. It just kind of burns itself out, and then that flake of the wrapper comes off and lands on you. So I've got a lap full of these little flakes of wrapper, but other than that, it's definitely an interesting cigar. The further along you get, the more complex it gets, but down here at the bottom, it's not spongy. Like I said at the beginning, the cap area was definitely the firmest part of the cigar, and it's staying that way. But it hasn't heated up too much. The flavors are still good. Like I said, if you wanted to pair this with something, I think the best thing to look for would be a wine, because it definitely has those types of flavors. But it's a very interesting cigar. I enjoyed it. I'd get this one again, but I hope that they fix some of the construction details.
I would say if you can, and like I said, it's around $2.50, $3 a stick, I think. I'd pick some up because it has flavors I don't get in most cigars.
Yeah.
I don't get these type of flavors.
It's a very unique cigar.
So I think it's worth a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get them cheap, I highly recommend them. And just to give it a whirl. You don't find too many flavors in a cigar that this one carries, and that I think gives it merit. And so I guess we're going to finish it here. Until next time, smoke them if you got them.